All right, welcome back to Stat Chat Sports. It's just myself and Tazza today. Josh, he got dropped down to the twos after his poor performance last week, and we'll give Steve a bit of a break. He just got married, so he can have the week off. So, Joshy, pull your head in, mate. We need you back. 14th place we're talking about in our season previews, and it's a big one for Josh to miss because we're talking about the Eagles. His beloved Eagles. I'm an Eagles fan, but Josh is definitely an Eagles fan. Tazza, how do you see this team going this season?
So last season was obviously pretty poor by the Eagles standards. The Eagles have always been one of those teams. As the song goes, they're flying high. They always are. But they really lowered their colours last year, and not all of it was up to them. I mean, there was the COVID. It was a lot of injuries. I mean, everything sort of kind of took the Eagles for a ride. But so I've got them sitting 15th this season. That was my position for them. But I almost think that's kind of lower than they should be. I'm expecting a bounce back here. I don't think the list indicates that they're terrible. I think they just need to get back to playing. They were quite awful at moving the ball last season. It was a real hallmark of their game that they just got stuck at halfback and junk timed really throughout defence. So they need to get back to moving, quick ball, and player that's crucial to that for me, and crucial to the way the team works is Elliot Yeo. So I think he needs a big one this season.
Oh, I completely agree. It's last season it was way too slow, and you could see that when watching them compared to nearly every other team. They were one of the slowest teams, and it was very frustrating as an Eagles supporter to watch. Down by 40 points, and they're still just kicking it across halfback. It's very frustrating. So apparently they're changing their game style, but you always hear these news. But let's talk about the ins and outs of this team because there was quite a few more of big name outs than there were ins.
Yeah, look, Josh Kennedy, we got to start there. That's huge. I mean, we're talking about one of the biggest and best key forwards in the last 15 years of the game. He's gone, a storied career. Obviously, leaves a big hole in the team. I think the Eagles are well placed to plug that hole with a young gun. We'll talk about later. But Junior Rioli, another one. That's obviously consistency was an issue, and he's had his issues off the field as well. But on his day, Rioli was and is a gun player. And I mean, for me, I love seeing him in port colours. I can't wait to see what he does. He looks as fit as ever, but that's for another preview. We don't need to talk about him too much. Jack Redden as well. One I didn't really expect to happen. I thought he had more left in the tank. So that sucks to see him gone. And there's a couple of others. I mean, Nelson. I mean, that was long overdue.
Oh, yeah, that's been.
He should have been
gone. Happened years ago.
Gone years ago. Yes, there you go. Almost jinxed ourselves there. Just said that exact same time, but I mean, 100%. How he lasted that long was incredible, and I just in my head, all I can remember about Nelson is it was the derby I went to, and him and Andy Brayshaw getting into it, and Brayshaw just towed him up. He couldn't run with him.
No, Brayshaw was just next level.
And I mean, yeah, obviously we're talking about they're two completely different players, but he not only if you're gonna be shit at football, at least hang with the bloke, at least stay with him, annoy him, pester him, and he couldn't even do that. So I mean, good riddance. He needed to go. He's gone. Good. But yeah, I mean, the outs really do outweigh the ins. I mean, they've brought some good draft talent in, which is something the Eagles they sorely lacked.
Yeah, especially from that Tim Kelly trade a few years ago. We're just missing out on all these draft picks over the last 3 or so seasons. It's just really hurt us now. So trading away our pick 2 for, was it pick 8 and 11
12.
or something? 12, yeah. I think that was probably the right move to get two in instead of the 1. But outside of those, and outside of your Kennedy and Rioli, or well, not Rioli, outside your Kennedy, who would have been probably Eagles' best chance to make an All-Australian again. Who do you see this season?
So I've got two, I think. Obviously, Tom Barrass was huge for the Eagles last season. They were peppered down back, but he was the lone pillar, defensive pillar down there. Um, I think with McGovern coming back with the preseason, he should get a bit more support, and obviously that probably means he shines less, but hopefully he still takes that. I think McGovern's got to be the man because he's on the huge wage, but I kind of prefer Barras. I do think he's the man down there.
As an out defender, Barras is a better actual defender. But obviously,
yes.
But even still, his intercept marking has improved significantly over the last few seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it was on display, well, never more on display than last year, and it had to be. I mean, if it wasn't for Barras, the Eagles could have been in some serious trouble in certain games. But another guy, I've already spoken about him, but I really think with a full preseason, I think it's been roughly 18 months he's had a really good run at it. But Elliot Yeo, I really think that he can get back to some sort of. I mean, it really depends where he plays. I mean, he might be a jack of all trades, which really kind of will. If he lands on the All-Australian team, it'd only be on the bench as a bit of a Mr. Fix-It. But I think if he can get back to his midfield best, his ball-winning ability and just the way that he charges out of packs is out of the contest is amazing. So I would love. He's one of my favourite players in the comp, so I would love to see him sort of get back to it. And if he does, I can't see why. I can't see why he couldn't push the 40 or at least sort of give it a shout to get in the AA squad.
Especially playing those few games late last season and now having a full preseason. Like I say, there's rumours obviously him playing at halfback, but I think it's someone Eagles need right in the guts. If you can clean up his disposal efficiency, it's probably the one area he lacks a bit. But the Eagles need someone who can get that ball out of there, and that's where they lack, especially last season.
He kind of fixes two things for me. He fixes the run off halfback, and so does Jaden Hunt, who's another end that we didn't really speak about. And the ball winning ability, and it shows how much they've missed him. The two areas that they really lacked. That's probably where he specializes. So, I mean, he's just going to be super important for him this season.
Yeah, I completely agree. Bouncing off that, no, we're not going all Australian. We're thinking of a player who may improve a bit this season as our breakout player. Who do you see that happening at the Eagles?
This is easy for me, and I love watching him. He only played a handful of games last season, but I think Jai Culley has what it takes to really take his game to another level. Obviously, we haven't seen heaps of him, but the glimpses that we did see, I mean, he's a 193 centimeter midfielder who can hold his own in the contest.
He's a big boy.
He's essentially a Bontempelli. Obviously, he's not Bontempelli. Bontempelli's one of the best players in the comp. Not yet. Exactly. I think he has everything it takes if he can work on his game. I think he can be like Bontempelli. I don't think that's a crazy call. Obviously, I'm not expecting him to do that this season, but I think he's on the right way, and I think the Eagles, given their situation, they'll want to put him in pretty quick.
I think they have to play him. And he has to play big minutes.
Yeah, and from all reports, he's been thrown in the guts.
Yeah,
they want him in there. They need. I think it's going to be, especially if Yeo's down halfback. I think they need that big body ball winner, and I think Culley can be that guy. So
who do you see as the midfield mix then? If you think, because you think Yeo's going to be in that midfield guts. Who do you think is going to be probably the main three? Who would start the centre bounce?
You'd have to think Kelly's around there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got one of those bigger bodies, you've got to have Kelly around the mix there. Where Sheed plays, I think he's got to follow that ball around a little bit, and it's got to be a bounce back season for him as well. So I think he only played.
I think he may start on the wing and be that fourth midfielder type.
That's kind of where I was going with that. I'm not sure if he's a pure on baller.
Yeah.
Um, I've heard of Shuey possibly going down back. I'm spending a little bit more time at half back. Otherwise, his clearance work is quite good. You
But
do want,
he can also play a half forward. He can be a goal kicking midfielder. But let's be real, he's going to get injured. He'll
exactly.
We don't really have to think about Shuey too much.
No, you don't want to. You want to wrap him up in cotton wool. You
Yeah.
want to put him somewhere where he's not gonna. All those. I don't even think they're contact injuries. It's all soft tissue. So you want to maximize what he's got to offer without sort of really breaking him down.
Yeah.
So that's and really, I really think the Eagles could have gone somewhere else with the captaincy while we're on Shuey. I just don't think. I don't think it was the right call. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure who I'd be giving it to anyway. But I think there could have been someone different than Shuey.
Well, there's talks of McGovern, but I think Barras would have been a good captain. I like defenders. I like defenders as captains, and you look at these great teams who have won the premierships. Most of the time been a defender who's been the captain. It obviously works because they can see the game in front of them and see what needs to be changed. So I personally don't like on ballers as captains because they need to think about getting that ball, and that's it. That's all they need to be thinking about. So where as a defender you can set up the structure and everything, you can be yelling out, and because you got that more time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You almost want a quarterback.
Exactly.
You want someone who can sit behind the play and see the play as it unfolds. And if everything's not right, someone to marshal the troops, get them back where they need to be. So I completely agree, 100%. I do like defenders as captains. I think it's a great idea.
So going off that and how we think these players might improve, like a Jai Cully or Elliot Yeo, let's go the opposite side. Who's under the pump at this club? Who may lose their spot in this team?
So I don't know if he loses his spot, but Gaff. Oh, I'm trying to. It's Gaff. Gaff he's what we like to call a bit of a seagull, and if he's not, if the Eagles aren't winning ball in the middle, his numbers drop just dramatically. We've seen him sort of average, your 30 possessions regularly, sort of in the Eagles' heyday. He is one of their major ball winners, and he's a great ball user when he's got it. So you want it in his hands, but when they're not winning the ball at the contest at the coalface, he's really nowhere to be seen, and he's just another body running around doing not a whole lot. So if Gaff isn't going to, if he's not going to win, or he's not going to get this ball, well, I do think that the Eagles midfield will improve and he will be able to win more ball. But if he's not, I think he needs to be at least more defensively accountable and not just not running for the hell of it. He racks up the Ks, he does, but I just don't think he does a hell of a lot if the Eagles aren't winning. So he needs to be more accountable defensively.
He's a grass filler. That's what he is. He fills an area on the grass, and that's it. He cannot win the ball himself. He can't tackle. We've seen that many times. He cannot stick a tackle. So he cannot play in the guts. That's where these Cully type players have to go in the guts now. Yeah. So he has to play this wing role, and he just has to run up and down that wing, but he needs to work back. He needs to work back.
That's exactly what I mean. If he needs to be defensively accountable, he's not going to be ripping blokes down. That's not what he's doing. But he needs to make his opponent think. He needs to make his opponent work. That he needs to be just a pest.
Exactly. So we've spoken about, obviously, Kennedy leaving and Elliot Yeo or Jai Cully. Do you think those guys could be a reason why the Eagles actually do a bit better this season? Or are you going somewhere else of being a bit optimistic for the Eagles?
So, yeah, off the back of Kennedy leaving, last season we didn't see a lot of Oscar Allen, which was a shame because it was real. Everyone knew that Kennedy was leaving. We knew it was his last season, and we never really got to see the real changing of the guard, I suppose. Everyone knows Oscar Allen is the heir to the Eagles forward throne, for want of a better phrase. But I think that's what the Eagles have to be optimistic about. We get to see Oscar Allen doing what he was brought in to do. He was drafted as a key forward. We want to see this guy kicking goals, and he can do it. But the one doubt I have, and this is why I would have liked to have seen him off the back of Kennedy and Darling properly, is he's probably going to take the number one defender at this point now.
Especially with Darling, well, rumored at time of recording, he did an injury at training. We don't know that
ankle, I think it was.
Yeah, an ankle. Yeah. We don't know to what extent or whatever just yet when we're recording this. But if he's out at the start of the season, then 100% he's getting the number one defender.
Yeah. And so with Darling as a tandem, I think that could be quite good. I mean, Darling has his moments, but he is a serviceable forward.
Yeah.
But Oscar Allen is the future. And so we want to, I think this is a reason for the Eagles to be excited. We finally get to see Allen in his preferred position. No more stuffing around with the ruck. That was, you need pinch hitters. I get it. But
he's a forward.
Absolutely.
A full forward out of the goal square.
Yeah. And this is what he was brought in to do. We get to see it finally. We get to see what potential he really has and how good he really can be. So, I mean, he's my fiance's favourite player. So
he's my favourite player.
Is he? Yeah, well, there you go.
I love watching him play. I think the key for him, though, is this midfield. This midfield needs to hit him up. Kennedy's lead, obviously, like we said, he's one of the greatest forwards, probably one of the greatest Eagles players ever. So his leading is impeccable. So it's a lot easier for the forwards to hit up. So if Oscar Allen, he obviously needs work on these leading channels, but these midfielders have to lower their eyes for these type of players. So if the Eagles are getting smashed in the midfield, then obviously it just hurts these forwards if they're just getting bombed on their head. So I'm with you. He has to play a big part for the Eagles to do anything this year. But this midfield needs to help him out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's got all the talent in the world. It's just, the service needs to be there. Otherwise, you're just gonna languish in an empty forward line. Yeah,
that's it. All right, so that's it for our Eagles preview. We had them at 14th. So tune in for the next video, or tune in for our last videos if you want to see who we had below the Eagles. So that's it for us. It was a good one. I like talking about the Eagles, obviously. We missed Joshy in this one, but he needs to improve to come back to the team.
Come on. Lift your game, Joshy.
Yeah, it was a bit poor effort last week, mate. So that's why you got dropped. So that's it. Leave us a comment, like the video. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit the subscribe button. So thank you, and we'll see you in the next video.